Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen. It is Liverpool versus Cardiff. It is the match build-up show. We are here. Let's get stuck into it. We've just done an unfeasibly long amount of pleasurable time talking about the midweek win over Red Star Belgrade, but now we're going to talk about the Premier League. And Chris, it feels like having come through a little bit of a tricky spell, it's time now for us to start to gather a bit more momentum again.
I think so. I think, the confidence looked like it was back on the side from Wednesday night, didn't it? And I think you want to be able to carry that over against Cardiff. And listen, we're going to probably trot out lines like they can't be underestimated. And I'm sure Klopp will be telling the players all that. I'd like to see us be fired up to go and slaughter them. Yeah. That's what I want to be. I'd want my managers to be going in there and you're better than these. Look what you've done to them at the weekend. This side is struggling at the moment. Let's go and put some pressure on Manchester City, Tottenham, Chelsea in this league who are all going to play later than us. And let's force them to play from behind. And that's what we've got to do now. We've got to turn it up and try and open a gap up when we can. Yeah. This is a perfect opportunity to do that.
We wanted us to go and batter Huddersfield, and it never quite materialised, unfortunately. I'd like to think there were some extenuating circumstances.
We said Huddersfield, Red Star and Cardiff for the three games. If you didn't score goals against them, then you could start worrying. Yeah. Well, we've scored against Red Star, so
we could have beaten Red Star 6 or 7 easily by the end of that.
You have to keep that momentum going, though, don't we?
But I think that with regards to the Huddersfield one, it feels like excuses, but kind of whatever. We can do what we want, can't we, to put a positive spin on things. Off the back of the international break, and to be fair, the atmosphere at Huddersfield going away, they're actually a better side than I think that people give them credit for. Cardiff have got the second worst defensive record in the Premier League so far. Yes, they've just picked up a win against Fulham, which has dragged them out of the relegation zone, but you'd expect them to be right down there coming in. And yes, there's the Neil Warnock factor, but look, this is not the Championship. Where he thrives, where he lives for, where he will end up again in the not too distant future.
Is he the winningest manager in the Championship
probably,
ever?
Probably up there. Probably up there with your Tony Pulis's and your Dave Bassett's.
The thing is, I've no clue how they will approach the game at all.
Really?
I have no clue whether Cardiff will just park 2 buses or whether they think, oh, what the hell, let's just play some football. We've just had a first win.
I can't see him doing anything but trying to come out with as much pride.
He's old school. He's old school, isn't he, Warnock? So I think those older managers are like, let's try and take a point. Yeah. Whereas I think some of the newer ones, you think of sides that have come up who want to play a little bit of expansive football, are like, if we're going to get beat, let's go down swinging. Let's try and take the 3 points while we get beat.
And to be
Warnock
fair,
won't be like that.
And to be fair, you've got as much chance either way, really, haven't you? Sam, with us, you can cause us problems, but I'm far more confident about that since obviously the arrival of Van Dijk and the emergence of Gomez at centre half, etc. The defence is good. Yeah. We don't have as many concerns in that regard. There still will be some over a team that wants to come and defend for their lives, but it's Anfield. And having had the Red Star game, I think the lads will be going in there. There's the proof there that they can do it again, well, which I think helps.
The thing I love is we haven't conceded since February this year, wasn't it? So it's knocking on about 8 months. Yeah. And also we haven't been beaten at Anfield since, was it Swansea in 2000? Very beginning of 17. Yeah, Premier League games, bread and butter. So I think at that win last week, Warnock's already put 3-0 on his Super 6. Honestly, I'm telling you right now, he's happy. You know what? It'll be an hard game. We'll get beat here. No one will say nothing. That's exactly what Soft Lab Mason's going to predict, and we'll move on. Yeah, I think they're coming to get this game out the way and look at next week whoever they've got in that sort of middle, lower half of the table. But they'll have been looking last night at Red Star to try and looking at that game to try and find some answers. What can we do? And they've got nothing.
Well, we talked about on the Final Word show some about how the goal difference thing and how it's been the one criticism of this Liverpool side, and what we did was really interesting. I don't want to retread over that. I would highly recommend watching that show because it was a really interesting discussion, but there's no escaping the fact that this is a real opportunity for us to rack a couple of goals up, and as well, considering obviously City have got a tough game as well. This is where the league will hopefully start to level itself out. But again, ultimately, it is about us getting the points and letting the rest sort itself out.
Well, these games tend to go 2 ways, don't they? You score early, maybe you go 2-0 up in half an hour. Yeah. The game, you can blitz them. If it's 0-0 at half time, you might win it narrowly, or it's one of those hard games. It tends to be one way or the other, doesn't it? But I think the difference between us and City this season has been simple. They've had games in between, difficult games, where they can just go and be free and blitzed, and we haven't. We've had relentless games where we've had to win, nick it, hold on for dear life to the end of the game. They haven't really had that. So now this is our turn. Let's get out there and be positive and just go for it.
Well, it's interesting. We've now got a squad where we can change things if we need to. You know, and I could easily see, and we've said this right at the start of the season, that if things aren't going quite so well, you can throw Sturridge on, or Shaqiri if he's not starting. You can throw them on later in the game to give you a totally different approach. Because if the team's going to sit deep and you can't find space for Salah and Mane, then getting people in the box who can actually put the ball in the net, that's a totally different approach.
The way these games have historically gone, I'm not saying necessarily against Cardiff or whatever, but what you kind of Sam's alluding to is if you don't score in the first 15 minutes, we draw them games. Like, you know, and Stoke with a team. The Tony Pulis, prime Pulis Stoke was exactly how all those games went. If we didn't stick one in early, you knew how it was going to go. But I think you're dead right there, is that with 20 minutes to go in a game now, there's at least 2 lads on the bench who can come in, and you don't feel like, oh, it's going to be one of them days. You just go, okay, well, those lads haven't worked, but I actually back one of these lads to come in and be the difference maker.
This Liverpool side now, they're not. We don't play the same way as we used to under Brendan Rodgers, where we used to come out and we used to try and blitz teams. If you look at the times when we score our goals, you know, in the first half we score most of our goals in that last 15 minutes. We're more like a boxer now, where we come out and we just feint a few times, see what the other team's up to. We did it against Red Star in midweek. We felt them out for 20 minutes and we're like, okay, we now know what you're about. We know what we think is going to work against you, and we'll crank it up a little bit towards the back end of the half. And that's what we're doing. We're a boxer going into the third and fourth, looking to exploit the weaknesses that they're showing us. We're very pragmatic in everything that we do now, and everything's thought about whether we think so or not.
It's telling, because think about those when we started to really find form last season, particularly at Anfield. That's how all those games went. You know, I remember the Huddersfield game at home, and it was kind of in the balance of it. And you're thinking, oh, what's going to happen here?
Is that
and
the,
you get
the 3-0 we beat them?
You get a...
Yeah, it was,
I think it was 0-0 half time.
Yeah, I remember.
3-0.
And you're like, oh, but we grew, as you say, we grew into the games. We got our foot on the ball. We asserted our dominance. We figured them all out, and then we went, okay, this is how we're going to approach these games. I would like to see us go a bit more in this. I think this is one of those games where I'd like, particularly because we're playing first, it'd be nice to get this game won and then just go, there you go, Salah, there's half an hour off. Firmino, there's half an hour off. And then you've got a full week with rest as well, with Arsenal completely as the focus. Looking ahead would be a very nice way to live. Do preferred 11s in a minute. We're going to have a little break before we do. We've done the Reds News Roundup show on the redmentv.com. We do that every single week. I've hosted it this week in the absence of Steve Hall, but talking about Hoffenheim midfielder Kerem Demirbay. Liverpool reportedly scouting him, and a little look at how he might fit in.
First of all, where are you going to make room for him in the squad at the moment? If this was in a year's time and Lallana was coming towards the end of his time at Liverpool, picking up more injuries, Milner was getting, closer to the end, then I'd say, yeah, go for it. But I can't see where he's going to fit in.
The main thing that I've seen from him is he's injured quite a lot. Yeah. Like last season, he missed 14 league games because of injury, which is nearly half the season. It's a smaller league in Germany, isn't it? And a lot of it was an ankle ligament injury. And then he came back and he missed the first few games of this season with an ankle ligament injury as well. And then there's a few other thigh injuries and thigh strains. I think the last thing we need is another attacking-minded midfielder who's injury-prone. The
thing for me, my immediate thing when I'm looking at his stats and his goal return is that he doesn't score enough goals and he doesn't assist enough goals for what we need. Because I think Liverpool are going to go into this January window, and unless we see a marked increase in the output from any of our midfielders, someone's got to take up that oxygen chamber mantle. Yeah, you can get that show on the redmentv.com. You get the first month free. Go in there, check it out. You can get the Stats and Tactics show. Everything we do is in podcast form as well, which you can get into your podcast apps. You can get all the stuff on the go. So yeah, a myriad of amazing Liverpool content, and the perfect time to sign up as well. Gents, preferred 11. Sam, I'll come to you first on this. you've decided, having seen Fabinho absolutely dominate the midfield, that that'll do you for now.
Yeah.
You've got
Sorry, mate.
You've got Trent, Gomez, Van Dijk, Robbo as your back four, Milner, Gini as your midfield two, but you've stuck with the front four as it was in midweek.
I just think Milner's been... We've got no... Obviously, Henderson and Keita are probably going to be unavailable. Even if Keita's fit, he'll be on the bench likely. I just think Milner's just deserved this spot this year. He's just been quality. Everything he does is thought out. He's hard enough. He battles. And I think one good game against, a Serbian team who probably the equivalent of a championship side over here, realistically, maybe lower Premier League, but I just think Milner deserves to be back in the side, and you've had your go, son. Keep coming.
Yeah,
It's a hard man to please, is our Sam.
The rest of them, mate, I can't. I'm not faulting him. I just think Jimmy's been quality this season.
Yeah. No, so, I think it's a reasonable point, isn't it? Because Milner doesn't deserve to not be in the team. He's been flawless pretty much this season, and he's only out because he obviously had the injury, came back, we've then played him, and I suspect we're just making sure that he's in as good nick as possible. So no, that does make reasonable sense. Dad, you've gone for... you've given me a team with brackets. I'm going to go without your brackets for this.
I'm exactly the same as the opposite of Sam. In that I think we should play exactly the same team as we did against Red Star, but I actually think Klopp will play the team that Sam wants.
All right, sound okay.
Sorry,
cool.
mate.
I know. And to be fair, that I have gone almost identical to you, but only in that I've swapped the Milner in for Gini, because I think Gini probably could do with, Milner's there, you want to play him. I think Fabinho's shown what he can do. I see no reason why you can't play a very similar brand of football. This is physicality. I think would be a good thing.
I'd like
for
the
this
same
game.
team, but I think he'll probably slip Gini into the defensive midfield role. On his own. Okay. And put Milner and Shaqiri
as a more advanced thing.
Yeah.
And Chris,
I've changed my back line up, mate. I've gone with Gomez at right back and Lovren at centre half, and I sort of got one eye on the Arsenal game, and I think that's what the back four he might pick, because I think that might be his best back four at the moment. Yeah, I think
with Gomez at right back.
With Gomez at right back,
Right.
I don't see that there's a particular drop-off between playing Gomez at right back, in the outing last week against Huddersfield, and playing Trent there in poorer form than normal. I think we'll be slightly worried about Arsenal's front three or front four or whatever that is, and maybe just to give them a few more minutes together is probably not a bad shout. Plus, you've got the physicality of Cardiff and what they're going to do, those long balls. I think Lovren's good and very good at dealing with those types of situations, so I think it's a good mix of maybe planning for Arsenal and actually putting your best side out to beat Cardiff in a defensive sense.
Well, it's an interesting job, because I can see it working both ways. Personally, I think our best back five is the one with Trent in and what have you, but it's a case to be made of you switch to this and maybe in the knowledge that Trent does come back in for Arsenal because you want to play your best brand of footy in that game, whatever. But this is the thing, again, we've got options. I think I think nailed on if we were playing Cardiff away in terms of the physicality of stuff. I wonder whether, do you think there's any concern about, do you need how much we need the wide fullbacks?
Here's the thing. We don't need to play our first 11 to beat Cardiff. Yeah. We're good enough either way. And that's that. You're taking a bit of a risk, probably, aren't you, with not playing the two lads. But I believe that, my Fabinho, Wijnaldum, Firmino, Salah, Shaqiri, Mane is good enough to beat Cardiff. And I really think that what Gomez did at right back against Huddersfield as good as what Trent's done in any game this season.
Yeah, I'm just, maybe it's old school, I don't know, but I don't think you should change your back four or your back five at all if you don't have to. Yeah. I think they should play every game together, because that ultimately will give you a better defence, and that's simply the reason I would not change.
I think a lot of it will depend on where Klopp's at with Trent. I think, and I think he was pulled deliberately over those two games, and I know we made the notion of, I think he wants to get Lovren and gain time, and maybe it was just that balance of Trent's played quite a lot. You mentioned it, I think, on the final word, or something, that he'd had a little dip in form as well, and he referenced in the press conference, didn't he, the other week, about how it'd been his birthday and all this kind of stuff, and he'd had loads of messages and he didn't want to interrupt that, and that felt a bit like maybe Trent's just gone a bit like, you know, a bit of the big I am or whatever for a week around his birthday or whatever, and he's just you know, he's pulled on his leash a little bit and gone, "Wait, don't forget where you are." So it depends on whether he sees a value in more minutes for Lovren or whether he wants to keep Trent. But for me, if it was down to me, I think getting your most attacking team on the pitch in this.
Yeah,
I think we saw where we fell down against Huddersfield, and I don't think this falls down by swapping Trent out for Gomez, by the way, because I think you're right. We've got enough.
The goal
quality.
comes from Gomez's ball into Shaqiri, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've got enough quality, generally speaking. You know,
I think you're right about Arsenal, by the way, but I think this weekend he'll go attacking.
Yeah.
Because they've got all week to train for Arsenal.
Yeah, that's it. And I think
you are right about that, by the way.
And what we've seen historically under Klopp is when he's got a week, it's the free hit, isn't it? Like, I mean, you don't see, he tends not to rotate when he's got plenty of time. It's just whether the rotation comes on the back of having played the midweek game will be interesting. But let us know your preferred 11 in the comments below on that. Just looking around then, fascinating weekend of football. Obviously, because none of our rivals play on the Saturday. We get that game done. We get it out the way. Hopefully, we get to put our feet up with 3 points. Well, look, we'll be we want to be top of the table by 3 points come the end of Saturday, and then you get to enjoy the weekend. And obviously, going into the Sunday, Chelsea travel to Burnley. Yeah, you know, you'd expect Chelsea to get that. Although you know, if this was Burnley last season, you'd feel slightly more confident about it. Palace host Arsenal, exactly the same
Hodgson's
thing.
ruined them.
I love so much, Sam, that everyone, when is this going? Roy Hodgson. Or if they'd had that form in the back end of last season, all season they'd have finished 7th in the Premier League. And everyone, but that's not how football works. No. And Roy Hodgson's a terrible manager, and there will come a limit to his powers. I'd like them to do something to Arsenal there. It would be fabulous to go into the Arsenal game knowing that if they lost to Palace and we beat them, they're in a crisis, because that's how Arsenal react to things.
They love all that, don't they?
Yeah. They are primed for a crisis.
They win 10 on the spin, lose one game, and it's crisis, isn't it?
But like, you know, but then the Liverpool game becomes catastrophic because it's a bad result against Palace, but it's like, it's just a setback. To then lose to a team that they think they're on level pegging with,
but they don't do win or bust, Arsenal. Every time it's like, they've got to win this, they fuck it up. Yeah. They really do. They're just
Arsenal
not. The mentality's not there.
Week, moaning about it.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a tough game for Arsenal, because Palace, no matter what form they're in at home, bring it. Yeah, against the good side. So I think that's a hard game for
absolutely. Them. And then Man United host Everton, which could be
the world's most boring game of football ever.
But it's there for Everton. I don't expect Everton to get anything from that game. Like I expect, you mentioned it before, I expect Lukaku to click again and he'll score a goal and the heads will fall off. But I watched a bit of Everton last week against Palace.
You didn't have a choice. The only game on Super Sunday all day. I mean, come on.
Super Sunday, yeah.
They had match of the day 2 to themselves.
Yeah, literally, brilliant. But the
only time they've been first on in years.
Everton have sneakily developed a really good squad of players there. You know, you looked at that team and the players they were able to bring on. Marco Silva will play a good brand of footy. They'll have, I think the pace they've got there with Theo Walcott. He could have had a couple of goals against Palace in the end. They might cause a problem. And then the big one, alluded to earlier, Monday night, City travel to Spurs.
But then again, Spurs.
but this is the thing, Spurs. You just don't know with Spurs, do you? But look, draw all day. A draw there. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some value to Man City finally getting beaten by someone, but in terms of, I keep going back to this, our closest rivals cutting each other's throats.
Draw.
I want Spurs to win.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're still close though, aren't
they? 2 points behind us, but I think they've got the smaller squad. And I think, we were talking about it before the show earlier this morning.
And they're going to be in the Europa League.
If they get to the Europa League, and they've got all them lads who got to the semi-finals of the World Cup, and all them Belgian lads, the English lads, back end of the season, they might have a big drop-off. They don't
expect Spurs to last the pace, boys.
Yeah. Whereas City, I do. I think it's still about they are the number one. Yeah. They're the team that you've got to claw ahead. So draws for me is not good enough.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, makes sense.
I think these are the games where we're going to start to see it's compressing up at the top again, isn't it? Where there's only a couple of points separating the top five teams really. these are the games where you start to, it's up to City, because if City win this, then I think this is where the top two start to stretch away, which is what I think will happen in the division.
You look at it, if you were a Manchester City fan and you get beat at Spurs, you go, Liverpool have been moaning about the games that they've played this season, but they went to Spurs and beat them. You know what I mean? And we know that our fixture list hasn't been as difficult as Liverpool's. Do we have to start taking them very seriously? And if that's getting into the fan base, that's getting into the mentality of the players, and that's when it starts to become difficult for them to pick themselves up and go again. The
hope is with Spurs, they've been awful in Europe, haven't they, so far? And you might be looking for a bit of a reaction there. You know, they're so close, as we say, to being in the Europa League or not even in Europe. They'll be looking for a reaction, and hopefully, big game to get up for at home in inverted commas.
In London. Can we laugh about the advert?
Oh, about what it was.
So it's been plastered all over. You know, the only place to watch Champions League football in London this year, because none of the other sides got into the Champions League. They never actually got to play a game of Champions League football at their new stadium. They'll probably be out of it by the time that the new stadium opens. What was 3 months ago the greatest piece of banter marketing ever has now just completely blown up in the face. But they put the pressure on, Paul, so it's fine.
Pure Spurs, that, isn't it? Pure Spurs. Yeah, let's know how you think the Ravens are going to get on this weekend. Let's have some score predictions before we wrap up. Sam?
3-0.
Okay. Give one.
You going 6?
6.
1 or 0?
No, we won't concede.
I normally go for the same score as you, so fuck it, why not 6-0? No, 3-0. 3-0, I'm going to say Sam.
5-0 Liverpool.
It's right.
Yeah,
I love the confidence.
Why not? Why not?
I was going to say 7 until he said.
But we haven't had a 7 this season. We had
a couple last year, didn't we?
Yeah, score predictions, preferred 11s, and thoughts on anything else in the comments below. If you're enjoying the build-up show, don't forget to drop a like on the video as well. And if you want more Liverpool content before and after every single game, in depth and detail, whether it's in video form or in podcast form, get over to the redmentv.com. Check out our brand spanking new website. It looks absolutely incredible. As I say, the content's on there to match as well. So yeah, hope to see you there. But if not, we'll see you post-match this weekend. Ta-ra.